There was a scholar in Chang'an named Fang Dong. He was very talented and famous, but he was frivolous and unruly. Whenever he met a woman out for fun on the road, he would follow her frivolously. One day before the Qingming festival, he walked to the outskirts of the city and saw a small carriage with red curtains and embroidered draperies. Several maids in green riding horses followed the carriage slowly. One of the maids was riding a pony and was very beautiful. Fang Dong leaned forward to take a peek and saw that the curtains were open. Inside sat a girl of about 16 or 17 years old, dressed in gorgeous makeup. She was extremely beautiful and the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his life. Fang Dong felt dazzled and his mind was out of control. He chased after the girl relentlessly, sometimes in front of the carriage, sometimes behind it, and ran for several miles. Suddenly, the girl in the carriage called the maid to the side of the carriage and said to her, "Put down the curtain. Where did this frivolous man come from? He always peeks in." The maid then put down the curtain and said to Fang Dong angrily, "This is the bride of the seventh son of Furong City. She is going back to her parents' home to visit. She is not the daughter-in-law of an ordinary farmer's family. How can you, a scholar, just look at her casually?" After saying this, she grabbed a handful of soil from the wheel rut and threw it at Fang Dong. Fang Dong's eyes were immediately squinted and he couldn't open them. When he rubbed his eyes and looked again, the carriage had disappeared without a trace. He returned home in shock and doubt, feeling that his eyes were always uncomfortable. He asked someone to open his eyelids to check, and saw a small film growing on his eyeball. After a night, his eyes felt even more uncomfortable, and tears kept flowing. The small film in the eye gradually grew larger, and within a few days it became as thick as a copper coin. A spiral film grew on the right eyeball, and no medicine could cure it. Fang Dong was so depressed that he felt like dying. Thinking about what he had done, he felt very regretful. He heard that reciting the Bright Sutra could eliminate disasters and solve problems, so he took a scroll of scriptures and asked someone to teach him to recite it. At the beginning, although he was reciting the sutra, he still felt irritable and uneasy, but as time went on, he gradually calmed down. From then on, when he had nothing to do in the morning and evening, he would sit there cross-legged, twist the Buddhist beads and recite the sutra. After persisting for a year, Fang Dong felt that all distracting thoughts had been eliminated. One day, he suddenly heard a sound like a mosquito in his left eye, saying, "It's pitch black, I can't stand it." A voice in his right eye responded, saying, "Let's wander around freely together and vent our anger." At this time, Fang Dong gradually felt that his two nostrils were itchy as if there were insects crawling, and it seemed that something crawled out of the nostrils and left the nostrils. After a long time, the things came back and crawled into the eye sockets again from the nostrils. He heard someone say, "I haven't been to the garden these days. How come all the pearl orchids have withered and died?" Fang Dong usually likes fragrant orchids, so he planted many orchids in the garden and often watered and cultivated them himself. But since he became blind, he has not asked about them for a long time. He suddenly heard this and hurriedly asked his wife, "Why did the orchids wither and die?" His wife asked him how he knew the orchids had withered, and Fang Dong told his wife the reason. His wife immediately went to the garden to verify, and the orchids were indeed withered. His wife thought this was very strange, so she quietly hid in the house and waited for that thing to appear. After a while, she saw two little people crawling out of Fang Dong's nostrils. They were not even as big as beans, and they went out of the door. They walked farther and farther, and it was impossible to see where they went. After a while, the two little people came back hand in hand and flew to Fang Dong's face, just like bees and ants returning to their nests. This situation continued for 2 or 3 days. Fang Dong heard the little person in his left eye say again, the tunnel leading out is winding and inconvenient. Why don't we open a door ourselves? The little person in his right, I responded, the wall blocking me is very thick and it's not easy to open it. The little person in his left, I said, I'll try to open a door first. If I can open the road, I'll use it with you. Then Fong Dong felt a dull pain in his left eye socket, as if it was scratched. After a long time, he opened his eyes and saw the tables and chairs in the room clearly. Fong Dong told his wife happily. His wife looked at his eyes carefully and saw a small hole in the membrane. The black eye flickered and revealed a dot as big as half a peppercorn. After one night, the thick membrane in the left eye disappeared completely. After careful observation, there were actually two pupils inside, but the spiral membrane in the right eye was still the same as before. He realized that the little people in the two pupils were living in one eye socket. Although Fong Dong was blind in one eye, he could see more clearly than people with two eyes. From then on, Fong Dong paid more attention to restraining his behavior, and his fellow villagers praised him for his noble character.